name's Grace Stevens, and I hired Adam to help me get my podcast, Balance Your Teacher Life, launched. You already know this about him if you're a listener. He has experience, a wealth of knowledge. He gives more than most people charge huge amounts of money for away for free. So why should you hire him? Let me tell you, he gave me so much confidence, so many practical ideas, and helped me launch my dream podcast. His real magic lies in the intersection of knowledge, of cheerleading, and honestly, candor. He will tell you what you need to hear, and he'll do it lovingly, but it will be the best podcasting advice you ever got. I have no hesitation recommending him.
What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School. It's a show where I teach podcasters simple strategies to help you grow your audience and turn your podcast content into new clients. I am excited because we are doing a podcast growth audit episode talking about podcast SEO strategies for serious audience growth. You guys hear me talk about SEO a lot, and this will be a handy episode because you see those strategies applied to my pod pal Greer Jones's podcast. So we're going to dive into that here in a second, but I know what's going to happen. This episode goes live. Every single time I post a coaching episode, I get the DMs, I get the emails, I get the messages. Adam, how do I get one of these spots? You need to be on my newsletter list. All right, so hit the link in the show notes. Go to the website, www.podcastingbusiness.school. There's only 3 buttons. Click on the one that says newsletter. With that subscription, which is free, you'll get the other 50% of my best content every single week. That's right. So my newsletter content is different every single week than my podcast content. And honestly, I've got more newsletter readers than podcast listeners right now, which is super weird, but it is what it is, Pod Pals. But it's well received. I got a high open rate. People really like it. So make sure that you are on that list because twice a year, I send out a note saying, hey, apply here. Fill out this Google form. I will pick people from that list and we will record episodes. I'm starting to run dry. I've got about 3 or 4 more in the bank. I release one a month. So here, this end of spring/summer, I will send out an email saying, hey, apply for a podcast growth audit or apply for a podcast listener to client conversion audit. And you can apply and have a chance to be on the show. All right. So make sure you're on the list. It's a great newsletter. I love writing it and you will love reading it. Also, this spring/summer, I'm doing a ton of content experiments. I'm just trying a lot of stuff, new offers, new things. I'm going to throw a lot out there and it's all going to come via the newsletter. They kind of get first word, first dibs because I batch record these podcast episodes in advance. So this is being recorded 3 weeks before the release date. With my newsletter, I write it in real time. So you kind of get the quick updates there. But I'm going to do a lot of collaboration opportunities. I'm really excited about it. I've just kind of labeled this summer as it's a summer of experimentation. Let's try some stuff. I'll report back in on the show and in the newsletter about what works, what doesn't work. And should be some pretty cool opportunities there. So make sure you're on the list. It's just what you need to do. It's the right thing to do, Pod Pals. Get on the newsletter. All right. So with this episode, again, it is a podcast growth audit. We're talking about growth. I think you're gonna get a lot out of it, especially if you've tried to apply some of my SEO strategies and maybe it hasn't quite clicked yet. This one's gonna help. So let's dive on in to this podcast growth audit with Greer Jones from the Unfinished Idea podcast. All right, we are doing a podcast growth audit with my pod pal Greer, and I want to dive right on in. You ready to go with this here, Greer?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay. I want to kick this off and kind of hand out some flowers because you're doing a lot of things right. I looked at your show and I like a lot of what you're doing. So let's talk about 4 things that I really like that you're currently doing. Thing number 1, you got 74 episodes. You're doing great. Like 17% of podcasters don't make it past episode 10. Only 5% make it to 100. So that's kind of our next little benchmark there. But I think you're doing fantastic. The second thing, weekly episodes, you're consistent. You're getting stuff out there. Looks great. Number 3, great use of keywords in your episode titles. You are really, I can tell that you're putting things that your audience is potentially searching for in that content title. And Number 4, I know you mentioned you're doing a rebrand in January, and I celebrate that because right now it's called Unfinished Idea. We've got what I think is a better concept coming for what it sounds like from when we're doing this interview here in December to January. So before we dive into the rebrand, I wanted to, put those things out there saying good job, a little hand clap for you. The question I'm most interested in right now is what are you most frustrated with in general as a content creator? You put out 74 episodes, weekly content. I know something is just like it's got to be frustrating you, bothering you at this point because that's how we all are. What is that thing for you right now?
Uh, Great question. I'd say kind of two things. One, I don't know how much control I have over it. I think I have some, but not all. So the first one is just that engagement back. So I can see people are downloading, I can see people are listening, but then I'm not getting that engagement back.
Hmm.
Um, I know it's podcasting, I know it's not going to be loads, but just something would be great if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the other one is just, yeah, kind of growing the podcast. And I know it's a long game. I know it's kind of a slow burn, if you want to say, but I would love to kind of just, yeah, know how to better grow the
Yeah.
podcast.
We're definitely going to dive into that today. Let's cover that engagement frustration point a little bit first, because I think I can help you out. Well, I hope this helps you out. Like looking at your content, looking at where you're at in the podcasting journey, I feel like you're in a very normal space. Like you are exactly where I would expect you to be uh, in your podcasting journey. So I just say that with hopes that you don't feel like, oh, I'm behind the curve or something like that. Like
Yeah.
why am I like this and I'm not getting any engagement and everyone else is. Um, this is very normal. I tell all my clients, I'm like, the first 100 episodes, you're going to figure out how to be a content creator. You're going to find your voice. You're going to develop your audience a little bit. Things will start to build slowly. But the first 100 episodes, the first like couple of years with weekly episodes is just, I hate to use the word practice, but it kind of is. And you're kind of figuring things out because I'm sure that you didn't launch your show, a couple of years ago, like fully knowing how to be a content creator and, all the things but your education is your first 100 episodes. So I would just put that out there. You're in a very normal spot. Um, does that help
That's
at
helpful.
all?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's helpful.
Okay. Okay.
That's helpful.
Good. And engagement wise, the thing that you will notice is that will slowly ramp up and it'll look like one email a year where somebody says, I love this episode, or someone comments on a social media post, or you hear that somebody referred the show to their friend, like little drips and drabs every few months. And you gotta like let that power you through. Like, all right, I got an email that's got to get me through another 6 months. And that's how it was for me for sure. But it's just nice to know, okay, if one person responds, it emails me and says they love this episode, probably a lot more out there that just didn't respond. So that's a
Yeah.
good sign, So we have to kind of take the wins where we get them. But it will ramp up. And just one bit of advice on the engagement aspect of things is I would start putting yourself out there and kind of what I call initiate engagement and give your audience and your community a chance to be a community. And you have to be okay with that being very small. So if you're like, let's do an audience panel episode, or let's get my listeners together on Zoom and have a big community chat, you have to be okay when it's 4 people, because that's how it all starts. And then the 4 turn into 8, turn into 50, turns into the bigger numbers and things like that. So
Yeah.
we have to be okay with that small start at the beginning. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about growth. I think that this is you've pulled a lot of nice levers here, growth wise, but I think there's a few things that we can do. What is what's the rebrand that right now? It's called Unfinished Idea. What are you rebranding to again? Remind me on that.
It's going to be called Neurodivergent Conversations,
Okay,
because that is what it is.
correct. Yeah, and
Yeah.
having first word keyword neurodivergent. That's a highly searched term, and it's gonna be the first word in the name of your show. That is excellent. That will help tremendously with the right amount of people or the right types of people and then with increasing that amount.
Yeah.
Now, if you're planning on doing a title extension, which I know you've got now, I like where you're going with your title extension now. I'm going to pull it up on my screen real quick so I can see it. But when it comes to anything that I call like a diagnosable thing, we want that diagnosable thing listed as much as possible. Though, like if I had a podcast about cancer, I would have the word cancer in the name of the show and as many episodes as possible. So, autism spectrum, ADHD, all of those words you've already got listed in the title extension. I would leverage those again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that
Okay.
makes sense.
Okay, cool. And just real quick, like, can you briefly describe your ideal listener avatar? I mean, are we talking to parents? Are we talking to people with these things, or like who we actually want to help here?
Yeah, so I would say my avatar is a parent who is raising a child who's neurodivergent, who likely is also neurodivergent. I say my ideal because I have this like 50-50 split. So I recently kind of did a poll of my listeners, which wasn't a massive poll, but got some engagement. But
Yeah.
and it was like it was really a 50-50 split. I think it was like 48-52. So 52 being parents and then 48 being just neurodivergent themselves. And either in a school setting or in an environment where there are kids, but not necessarily
Okay.
a parent themselves. But yeah.
Okay. And that's something you may want to explore with your keywords. This is the word parenting, parenting strategies, parenting tips for children with XYZ, like having episode titles like that, maybe adding that to the host description or potentially adding the word parenting or parents to the title extension.
Okay.
That's a strongly searched word. As a parent that searches, like parenting strategies for high school students, which is like I'm that person right now. I'm a brand, ninth grader, figuring things out as we go. So yeah, I would definitely explore if it's applicable with an episode title, put that in there as well, in combination with the type of parent that you are talking to. So or
Yeah.
what
Okay.
their child is going through, things like that. So I think that will help quite a bit. Okay. So I think that title wise, I feel good about neurodivergent, having that there, our keywords in the title extension. I think that's going to set you up really, really nicely. When you redo your podcast art, I've got a couple of quick suggestions on that. Have you started messing around with that? Do you have a new show art and things like that kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like messing around with it.
Okay.
So I'm
Perfect.
like, this is perfect timing. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Perfect timing. So right now, um, you have thick font with your title, which I like, but I would actually go a little bit bigger even, and like the word neurodivergent, I would make the word neurodivergent go all the way across the screen. I would make the text as big as possible all the way across the screen, and then kind of work around that a little bit. And then with your title extension, right now on the art it says understanding the neurodiverse world, and I'm totally okay with all that, but I know that that's changing. But the font is it's too small. Like you can't see that on a phone. Like the way it is now, you have a big picture of a brain. And I like all that. And I think you could still use every bit of that, but I would just make the featured word neurodivergent all the way across, big, thick, readable. And like really, if you aren't totally married into like brand colors and things like that, look at different color matchups. Like a lot of people try to put like a blue on a red background. You don't have that issue right now, but even like the blue on the orange it could be a little bit funky sometimes to read. Like every podcast that I consult on, I always start off, I'm like, let's look at this with a white background. Let's look at this with a black background. And let's just see how the words pop and then kind of work from there. And so think about things like that. But I want the sub text bigger for sure and make sure that people can read that. You could even kind of make it like a little bit of a sandwich where you have the main title up top, have like some imagery towards the middle, and then subtitle towards the bottom. I think that might be be helpful. And then I do like how you had the word neurodiverse in a different color font. I think the only issue with that in the subtitle is it's too small, and white on a orange background at that size isn't going to show up real well. So just kind of think about little things like that and try to look at it on your phone. Like on Canva, it's always like, this is perfect. And then we look at the phone, like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I can't read it. So look at it on your phone as much as you can. There are even some apps that you can use that will show you what it looks like on like Apple or Spotify. I can't think of them off the top of my head. I would be a much better coach if I had that memory recall. But I'm sure you could just search and be able to find those. But yeah, I think that will help as far as the art goes. Any questions on that?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay, and just play with it and like have some people look at it. But also, I think one of the biggest mistakes that, especially, this is frustrating for me as a coach. I'll go ahead and say it. Like I'll invest, several coaching sessions with somebody. We're rebranding their show. We get the name right. We get the art where I want it. And then they do the fatal thing of, I'm going to poll my audience and see what they think. And they're all like, oh, I hate it. I don't know. And I'm like, they are looking at it for like the colors. Like, I don't like the colors or like stuff like that. I'm like, people will respond to this on an app. That's the only thing we care about. And they're like, what about this? They're like, my Facebook group says to use this word instead of the word that you chose. I'm like, are they podcast growth experts or not? So that gets me fired up. But just so put information in front of your audience or a few friends or whatever and go, hey, what do you think? Like, but be specific. Don't go, what do you think? That's probably the exact wrong answer or wrong question to ask, but just go, hey, do you like the black background or do you like the orange background? Or can you see this word? Can you clearly read this word? Instead of like, do you like this art? Is it probably not? They'll give you some feedback that's just frustrating. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
All right, cool. Okay, back to my notes here. Let's see here. Another thing, one like real easy thing that I would suggest doing is I'd like to see some episode titles, some numbers in your episode titles. Because you're getting up there in episode count. You got 74. And I always have a 3-digit number at the beginning. Some people add it to the end. I just want a quick and easy recall so that when you are on someone else's podcast or you speak on a stage or a virtual event or something, like one of the best strategies I've got, anytime I speak on someone else's platform, I don't say, hey, at the end there was like, shout out your show. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't go check out Podcasting Business School. I go, based on the conversation we had today, I want you to check out episode number XYZ about this topic. That's the next conversation that needs to be had. That's the next piece of information that you need. And so many more people go and download that. But if you go, hey, find the one about blah, 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 or the one where I interview XYZ person, they got to scroll through and find it. Even like a lot of people won't go to the link in the show notes if the host does that. Sometimes they don't. A lot of times they don't. So having an episode number for quick recall, that's going to help quite a bit. And I just put a 3-digit. You don't even have to have the word episode or EP or anything. I'm just like today I released episode 600. It's just 600 : title. And I just go from that. So something to think about. Any questions on that?
No, that makes sense. And that's a lot easier. I've done a lot of like podcast guesting, and it's like, giving them something specific makes sense.
Yeah, if you are guesting, I highly recommend that. And in some circles, people are like, it's going to hurt the SEO. And I mean, I don't know. I got 1.2 million downloads, so I guess it's not hurting too bad. And that's all I can say. It's like, well, I've been doing this forever, and it has not hurt me at all so far. So fingers crossed. Now, the other thing I want to look at is your host description. This is where we have a lot of opportunity for keywords outside of the title. And I think you've done a really good job with keywords overall, all the diagnosable things, all the big keywords that parents and people are searching. So you've done a really good job there. Now I want kind of a second part of your description. I like a transition sentence that says something like, this show is for you if you find yourself asking questions such as, and I call these the Google questions. Like I want you to go into Google, go into Chat GPT, or go into both and type in a couple of typical questions that you feel like your audience members are asking, and see what ChatGPT spits out as other questions that might be asked in this vein. But the nice thing about Google is you type in that question, and then Google will say, people also asked these questions, and copy and paste those into the
Yeah.
host. I want at least 5 Google questions.
Okay.
I like 10, depending on where you host. You have different amounts of characters you can get in that host description. Spotify limits it. That's the smallest. And if you have a paid paid platform, it'll be quite a bit larger. So, but this will actually help you show up for Google search, ChatGPT stuff, and all that. So
Okay.
that'll help quite a bit. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's great.
Yeah, and that's something that you can kind of set and forget it a little bit. Maybe once a quarter, just review that host description and go, okay, are all my keywords in there? Am I doing any brand pivot type stuff? Maybe redo some Google search stuff just to see what else pops up. Because we can just, it's not like a rebrand is happening or anything like that. And nobody is going to notice that you tweaked your host description. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
And it's the second most powerful thing we've got SEO wise, which is great. So from the SEO perspective, I like the direction we're going with the name and the art. I like where we're going with the host description. You've already got great episode titles. Now we're going to number them. I feel like that's going to help even more. So I feel good from that SEO lever. Now you mentioned that you are guesting on other shows. So like how many per month would you say you're being a guest on? Or like in 2025, how many shows would you say that you are a guest on?
Oh, it worked out about one released every week, if that
Cool. That's
if
great.
that makes sense. So yeah.
So you're doing a ton of guesting. Now, is it like what types of shows are you being a guest on?
A mixture. So some are like very neurodivergent focused, just for any neurodivergent person. Some are like parenting focused, so not necessarily neurodivergent, but like that's the topic I talked on. I mean, it's a mixture of like sizes, mixture of like how long they've done it. I mean, it's been a real mix of things.
And that's good. I mean, that's good. So here's what I like to do. Whenever I'm a guest on someone's show, I try to figure out what niche they are playing in, and I try to be the sub niche content guy of that niche. So if I'm on a business show, I'm going to be the online business coach for podcasters. That's that like, okay, anybody that's podcast curious in that audience, I'm sucking them in to my attractor beam. Or if I'm on a show about podcasting, I'm going to talk business on that show. I want to be the business guy on the podcasting show. So for you, if you're on a parenting podcast, I want you really leaning into the neurodivergent content. If you're on a neurodivergent focused podcast, I really want you exploiting the parenting angle. And kind of pulling in all the parents, like giving them that more like I'm specifically for you person listening. So that's and what I like to do, like I'm going to be a guest on a couple of shows this week. I'm researching them, listening to a few episodes, and I know probably where the conversation is going to go. And like I mentioned earlier, I walk into that with 3 to 5 of my episodes, knowing, okay, here's probably where the conversation is going to go. These are probably the types of questions I'm going to get based off of the show content already. I've got notes on 3 to 5 of my episodes. My goal is to share one of those at the end. You can share 2, that's even better. But my goal is that one, like at least one specific episode at the end, I'm like, oh, we talked a ton about SEO and growth. And if you guys like the direction that's going, a great episode to start with would be episode 560 of Podcasting Business School. I really dive deep on the SEO stuff. I can help you rebrand and rename your show, blah, 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 blah. So have notes in case, because it could kind of go a variety of directions. We don't know, but have your notes ready to go. And if it makes sense, sometimes I'll name drop too, where I can feel the conversation turning a little bit. And I'll be like, hey, real quick before, they'll ask me a different question that's totally in a different space. I'll go, hey, real quick before I answer that, just in case your audience wants to go a little bit deeper on that. That last topic we talked about was so good and so important. Make sure if you want to go a little bit deeper, check out episode blah, blah, blah of my show. And the host is always cool with it. They're always like, I'll add that to the show notes. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But now we've got that that content anchor in the ground. Okay, now let's talk about the next thing. And at the end, I'll shout out another episode, and I'll probably remind them of the other ones. And now I've got 2 kind of anchor points latched in there. And this strategy, again, will help you scoop up so many more people, because everybody else is just like, check out my show wherever you listen to audio podcasts, blah, blah, blah. And then we also give them all the social media platforms and all this other stuff. I literally, how much my newsletter probably, and I don't talk about anything else. I'm just like, I want you to listen to my show. You are listening to a podcast right now. I want that same podcast to podcast conversion. Hop on over to my show, get this episode, start there. And that is a winning strategy. So any questions about that strategy specifically, Greer?
No, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, I mean, I did a little, I think you actually talked about this, about like promo swaps it was a while ago, and
Yeah.
like having someone give a specific episode and not just like, hey, this is a great podcast. It was like, hey, this episode is a great episode.
Yes.
So yeah, and that makes sense. Like if you're gonna do a promo swap, then you might as well
Yep.
do it when you're your own promo swap.
Exactly.
Your own, yeah.
Exactly. And the way we have to think about it is put ourselves in our podcast listeners' shoes a little bit, and the content consumer shoes. And they're listening to other podcasts. They are seeing lots of marketing messages. They are following other email accounts. They're following other social media accounts. So being as specific as possible is a good thing. We're like, hey, I just bang them over the head with the frying pan and go, the next move is this specific thing for you. Let me make it easy for you, instead of, oh,
Yeah.
whenever you feel like it, go search my show and find some good stuff. Like, okay, that's a really lame call to action, and probably not going to inspire any action. So, okay. So I love the fact that you're guesting so much on other people's shows. Being more specific is definitely going to help you grow there. All right, last thing I want to cover is the last lever is looking at paid promo. Are you doing any podcast player app ads or any paid promo swaps or anything like that?
Yeah, so I call them like B-roll ads. They're the like, I think C-SPAN or whatever. I don't know what they're actually called, but they're the ones that I don't really have a choice in.
Yeah.
So I do have some of those, and then I do have so I do sponsorships of like the whole of the Unfinished Idea. So it's both the podcast and the newsletter, because I actually have quite a strong newsletter. So and I have kind of 2 different angles with that. So if it's a smaller business that I really like, I'll kind of do a minimum of 50. I'm in the UK, so a minimum of £50. But I kind of pay what you can, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
then if it's a kind of more established business, then I just have certain rates that I kind of send over.
Nice. Nice. And I would definitely, since you have a strong newsletter following and you've got a strong, you're building up this podcast following, I would look at opportunities. And I know you have guests on your show and things like that. I would look at any guests that you have on. One question I'd be asking them in onboarding is, do you have a newsletter, and can I potentially sponsor your newsletter? Like you sponsoring their newsletter,
Yeah.
or you sponsoring their podcast, because people don't get asked that question a lot. And there's an opportunity there as well for like, hey, we can scoop them up and get some of their listeners. So maybe you're a guest on there, but then maybe you do a promo swap or you're a sponsor. But I do a lot of newsletter. I pay for a lot of ad space in other people's newsletters, and that works tremendously well as well. So kind of reshuttling, I would take a certain percentage of the ad revenue that you have coming in and go, okay, so 15% of this, I'm going to recycle and put back into ads on other platforms to grow my audience again, and kind of create that flywheel a little bit. I think that'll be successful.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that.
Cool. All right, Greer, we covered a lot here today. Like I said, you're doing a lot of really good stuff that I recommend doing already. And just a few little micro tweaks away, I think you're going to have an all-time best year here in 2026. So before we head out, why don't you take a 60 seconds here and just shout out where people can get connected with you.
Yeah, so I'm the Unfinished Idea. That's not changing. Anywhere on socials, Instagram, TikTok, website, all of that. And then as well, the podcast will be Neurodivergent Conversations. And I'm not going to lie, since I'm going to take a little tip from what you've just said, I would recommend going to number one, to go to episode one, the first episode. I share
There
my
you
story
go.
and I share kind of why I started the podcast. So head to episode number one.
Episode number 1. Easy to remember, y'all. Okay, Greer, I'm proud of you, and I'm excited to see what you do here with all these little micro shifts. And I think you'll get some great results. So let's get to work. Hey there, good looking. Just a quick reminder to hit that link in the show notes and get signed up for my free podcasting business school newsletter. I'm going to send you a fresh, hot newsletter every single Thursday with some of my best podcast launch, growth, and monetization strategies. Hit that link in the show notes and keep your eyes on your inbox.